what Chip Wade had said. They're not here this morning, but he said that he started out the first year teaching and he thought he was doing it for the kids, but he found out he was helping himself. And so anytime we can go back and look over God's words, it's going to help us in the meaning. Some books are written for curiosity purpose. Some books are written for fame. Some books are written for the notoriety of the writer. The Diary of a Mad Black Woman, War and Peace, different books that are written, how to get a man, how to hold on to your woman. There are a lot of books that will draw us curiosity. Say, I want to read that book because guess what? It's going to help me. My thing is now they have how to diet, 125 ways on how to lose weight. And if you buy that book, you won't lose no weight. So the thing is that we have different authors who write books for different reasons, but sometimes those books, they doesn't help. But here we have a book that's one of the synoptic gospels. In other words, they emulate and they parallel with the other three. And here John gives us a great picture of Jesus after he has been resurrected. It goes into chapter 20 and verses 24 through 31, or so say through 30 as far as the book of John. And so we have to understand that he is giving us a encapsulated picture of God being son, Jesus being the Son of God. That's his main focus. And then on the end, he writes, after he gives this account, he says that there's a whole lot of stuff that really went on. Jesus appeared to more folk than's written here. He did more things. He walked the streets of Galilee and Jerusalem and a lot of more things and said a lot of stuff. But guess what? We ain't got no book big enough. And another thing is we ain't got enough time to write everything that Jesus did. So he is encapsulated into the Gospel of John. And if you are already there, I'd like for you to come and go with me to that very chapter of John. And let's start. I'm going to be reading from the New King James this morning. It'll read pretty simple. So if you got the King James, just read along. If you got the ESV, it's okay. We all going to end up at the same point. Amen? Now Thomas, called the twin, one of the 12, was not with them when Jesus came. The other disciples therefore said to him, "We have seen the Lord." So he said to them, "Unless I see his hands, the print of the nails, and put my finger into the print of the nails, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe." And after 8 days, his disciples were again inside, and Thomas with them. Jesus came, take notice, the doors being shut, and stood in the midst, and said, "Peace to you." Then he said to Thomas, "Reach your finger here and look at my hands, and reach your hand here and put it into my side. Do not be unbelieving, but believing." And Thomas answered and said to him, "My Lord and my God." Jesus said to him, "Thomas, because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." And truly Jesus did many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book. But here's the kicker. But these are written that ye might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you might have life in his name. A book to be remembered. A book to be remembered. We have this pericope. Pericope is nothing, a Greek terminology is for a story that Jesus uses to get our attention. And here he is gathered back with the disciples. Now there's two things you should have picked up in this pericope right away. Number one, Jesus has a new body. He has a glorified body. Before he was resurrected, I'm pretty sure he could, but he laid aside those things as part of his power that he could have done. But when he had the resurrected body, he could walk through walls. It's an attack. He could walk anywhere he wanted to. And so because he has a resurrected body, he can do some things that he could not do before. So somebody ought to shout right there that Jesus has a resurrected body. And he goes on to tell us in 1 Corinthians around about chapter 15 that we all going to receive these glorified bodies. And somebody asked me one time, it says, are we going to be recognizable in heaven? Yeah, you will. You'll know Sister Shirley. You'll know Sister Davis. You'll know Brother Rivers. You'll know Pastor Lee. But the thing about it is that not as you know, we're just going to be Christian brothers and sisters. You won't know them as husband and wives, but you will know them. You'll be recognizable. And so here it is that Jesus gives this account. Number two, that you should have picked out, that Jesus is all-knowing. See, Thomas wasn't there, and Jesus wasn't there, but he knew exactly what Thomas had said. Isn't that amazing? We look at the providence of Jesus Christ. If I could help you this morning, I tell you, be careful what you say or think. Because Jesus knows what you're thinking. And he knows everything. He's an all-knowing God. Well, somebody might say, well, why couldn't Jesus do this at the first? Well, it's called in the Greek the kenosis of Jesus Christ. What it means is that he had the power, but he laid it aside so that he could teach his disciples about being God and man. And so here it is that Jesus shows them, since I've been resurrected, since I've been back to the Father. Remember Magdalene in the garden when she says, Rabboni, I thought you were missing. I'm paraphrasing. She went to touch him and he said, don't touch me. Don't touch me yet. I haven't risen to my Father. In fact, I haven't got really my approved glorified body. And it says that all God did was say, this is my beloved Son who are well pleased. You finished my job. Guess what? You got all power. Yes. And so here it is that Jesus is standing before Thomas. Now Thomas, we call him Doubting Thomas. Thomas is inquisitive. He says, I removed myself the first time from Jesus' visit. Y'all say y'all saw him? I'm not going to believe it. And we've already talked about that. You got some folk don't believe anything. Yes, sir. If you show them that you've got $250,000 in the bank, they'll just say you made that report up. I figured I'd use money. That would get our attention. But the thing is that nobody believes the report. Who will believe our report? And the thing about it is that a lie will surface faster than the truth. But here Thomas has come back with the disciples. He's standing there, and Jesus walked to the wall, and he undresses Thomas. That's exactly what he does. Because Thomas is doubting, and not only it's bad enough to doubt, but to spread the doubt among the other folk. And that's what you have to be careful for. That when our faith begin to sink, we don't want to affect nobody else. But Thomas is standing and telling them what he's not going to do. Jesus already knows it. So when he comes on the thing, he goes directly to Thomas. Dr. Phil didn't start this stuff. Jesus is an in-your-face God. And right now, he talks to Thomas, young people, and he says, the thing is that Thomas says, I'm not going to believe. He says, peace be unto you. Guess what? I want everybody else to have peace because guess what? You've seen me. You know, and around town, they know that I've been showing up. But guess what, Thomas? I got to talk to you, boy. Here it is that you are doubting, and you're one of the ones who's going to have to spread my word. Oh, yeah. And so here it is that, since I'm here, the rest of you stand fast. Brother Rivers, I understand that command. Stand fast. Don't get in a hurry. Don't get excited. You've already seen me one time, but I got to address Thomas because he wasn't here. Now, he should have been at the meeting, but he removed himself. I really didn't like that because he didn't show up, because I told him the message was tell all of my disciples to meet me in Galilee. And so he should have been in the meeting. Every now and then we we dismiss ourselves from the meeting. And then we call somebody and say, I didn't know about that child. Well, you weren't in the meeting. You have to understand this. One preacher, they decided in Detroit that what they would do, since the teachers were on strike, that they would get together and they collected money and they told everybody that was a teacher, if you're a teacher, show up. Come to the meeting. And so they went down the list, finding out what every need of every teacher was. If you had car notes, if you had house notes, if you had food, if you had needs for clothing, children, they did that in the church. But some of the teachers put the word out, we ain't going down to the old church, we don't want to hear that, all that stuff going on. But when the word got back that the church had paid off all this stuff, then they came knocking on the door. See, you can miss something by not going to the meeting. And in a church meeting, when we miss the word of God, it ought to leave a void in us. There are a lot of folk believe that they can stay at home and put the hand on the radio, Reverend Ike. Most of you don't know Reverend Ike. But if you're over 50 years old, you know Reverend Ike. A prayer cloth ain't going to do you no good. But some folk really believe they can miss church and still be blessed. Thomas says, no matter what authority is, I'm just not going to be here. But look what he says in verse 27. Jesus says, reach your finger. Mr. Thomas, since you're doubting, guess what? I got something you need to look at. You need to reach your finger into where the nails were. Yeah, since you don't believe. I'm standing right before you with a glorified body, but the stains of the nails, the nail spikes in my feet are still there. And guess what, Thomas? If you don't really want to deal with that, stick your hand up through my side. You notice he's only challenging Thomas. Because Thomas is the unbeliever. And so we have to understand, after all he's seen, he's still doubting. You know what, and we're like that sometimes. Yes, sir. After all that God has done for us, we still doubt that he's going to come through for us. We need to understand that God is an awesome God. He's an on-time God. Put your hand in my side. Do not be unbelieving, because unbelieving so-called Christians affect the word. Yes, sir. And that's why a lot of folk don't want to come into the church, because they see us not believing. I'm like the sister, they said, we're going to pray for rain in a country town, and the lady came with her parasol, with her umbrella, and somebody say, sister, where you going with that umbrella? She said, you did say we're going to pray for rain, didn't you? You have to believe that God will do exactly and exceedingly above that we can ever expect in our lives. We've got to believe it. If we're waiting on a healing, you've got to have confidence that God is the master doctor in the sick room. Yeah, he's the one. He's the one. I like my cousin. He just got through a few months ago with a quadruple bypass, and he's come here and visited us before, and he called me and says, cousin, he said, I know you're praying for me. He says, but they're going to take my heart out and work on me. He said, I already told the doctor that if I don't wake up, it's all right. He says, I've already had a good life, believing that God can do everything. It's all in his hands. And he called me back. He said, I'm back driving now. He said, I got to watch my diet, but I'm back driving. Faith, the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. You got to move ahead on faith toward God. Because here it is, Thomas, there's enough faith around that you should have been talking to your brothers that guess what? You knew that was to be true. Let me see if I can help you wrap this up. We ain't got no cross. We don't see Jesus held nail prints in his hand. We don't see that. We didn't see, we wasn't there at the cross. But guess what? We've got enough folk. The centurion says he gotta be. Surely he was. After all of this, it got dark at midday. The sun dripped down in blood and refused to shine. Surely he gotta be the Son of God. So there we have some witnesses that says, hey, he was seen in Galilee and he was seen around Jerusalem on the road to Emmaus. Somebody gonna help me here. He talks to them but he disguises himself. And they talk, man, you must didn't know what happened in Jerusalem. You see, they crucified this God that he was Jesus and he did nothing but good. Jesus had to help him along the way. He said, man, it's written, evidently you don't know why he came here. He came here to be crucified. Yes, it was a terrible death. It could have been averted, but guess what? It was on a cosmic timetable. And he was the ultimate sacrifice. So Thomas, it had to be that way. I like that. Don't be unbelieving, but believing. If you tell somebody something, you've got to do it convincingly. Because if you don't believe it, guess what? They don't believe it. You need to give your testimony that God has come through for you. And I've oftentimes says that even if he doesn't come through for you, like the 3 Hebrews, even if he don't save us, yet we're going to serve him. And so we need to understand, Thomas, because of your unbelief, you're affecting other folk. When our faith get weak, people who have weak faith already, or they are trying to determine should they follow you or follow this God. And so our faith ought to be strong. No matter what we go through, our faith ought to be intact. It ought to be based on solid ground. And if nobody else believes, guess what? We ought to believe. Thomas, here it is. Thomas says, after Jesus gets through tongue lashing him, he says, my Lord and my God. Sometimes, you know what's in that? The rest of the disciples had accepted it. They might not fully understood what it was. They might not have really understood. But they accepted that Jesus would do exactly what he said he was going to do. But Thomas had to go the extra mile. Show me. I need some more proof. And so we need to understand that some of us, Sister Parnell, is just like that. We know that God will come through for us. We've seen him in action. But we need some more proof. The Lord, I don't know if he's talking to me and telling me what I should do. Yeah, he's talking to you. You know he's talking to you. Because nobody talks like God. So if you're a Christian, my sheep know my voice. Yeah. That's why he could walk up to a tomb in John chapter 11 and say, Lazarus, come forward. And if you notice, he talked directly to Lazarus. Because there were some folk in the tomb that did not respect or believe in Jesus. And you know how we are. If you invite everybody, somebody gonna help me here. Everybody would have walked out the tomb. So he specifically spoke to Lazarus. Get up and come forward. I like that Jesus talks to you directly. Yeah. Every now and then, folk who are hard-headed, he has to talk to us directly. You remember when they were heading to the promised land and they got to Mount Sinai mountain and they got mad with Moses and told him, we don't need you to speak for us no more. We want to talk to God. We want to stand here. And he said, okay. Moses went to God and said, okay, dress them up, put a rope around the base of the mountain, tell them don't touch the base of the mountain, they'll die. And it says that when God cleared his throat, that's what the old preachers used to say, when God cleared his throat, they told Moses, hey, come back here. No. We change our mind. We don't want to hear directly from God because we feel the power. We feel the shaking. Thomas, guess what? You've been undressed by Jesus just for your unbelief. You've been with him. You've eaten with him. You slept with him. You walked with him. And yet you don't believe. Some of us been in this world a long time. And we don't quite believe like we ought to. We have that, Lord, I don't know. Somebody asked me one time, is it okay to bother the Lord? Yeah, every day. Master, I'm calling on you. Master, don't forget me. You see that Syrophoenician woman, that had the daughter who was sick was persistent. Yeah, she kept asking him. He says, well, you know, the word is for the lost sheep of the house of God. He said, yeah. And the table is spread and the crumbs. Somebody gonna help me here. I'm almost close to this. The crumbs that fall from the table, even the dog. Somebody help me here. There's a blessing right there. Say, you're powerful, and he healed her. You're persistent. I remember bugging my mom as a child. Mama, can I have this? No, you can't have it. Mama, can I have this? Mama, can I go here? Mama, my friends are all going. And finally she said, boy, get out of here. Get out of my face. Go on. But be home by persistency pays off with Jesus Christ. Yeah. If I don't get an answer the first time, I'm going to keep talking to him until I get what I need. Amen. And you have to understand that he's telling Thomas some of the same thing. Man, if you've known me, you should have known about me. And if you know about me, you ought to trust me. I had, as I close this, I had an engineer, and he's a real good friend of mine, that we had done some work together. And the guy that we did the work for wrote a $4,000 check. And it was to the engineer. And because a little hiccup came with the city inspectors, he canceled the check. And when I told him, I said, well, man, that goes to the engineer. He's already done the work. I ain't paying nobody. And so finally I called the engineer and I told him, I said, this is what happened, man. He said, yeah, I know, the check bounced. He said, in fact, it got a stop on it. And when we met up, he told the guy that we did the work for, he said, man, I just didn't know what was going on. This is the owner say, I just didn't know what was going on, and I wanted to be safe. He said, if you trusted Jerry, you should have trusted me. He said, because he stands, you had no reason to cancel that check. If you had faith in him to do the work, you should have never doubted the work. And so Jesus is telling all of that as a Christian. Don't doubt my work. I laid in the tomb 3 days. I sit up and took my headcloth off. I took my grave clothes off. And I had the angels to roll the stone away. An empty tomb is that a proof that our Savior lives. Don't doubt my work. Just hang in there with me. And one of these old days, we're going to be able to walk into Zion and pull off our heavy burden and tell God all about that I believe you every now and then. Like she was saying, I'm climbing up the rock side of the mountains. I'm climbing higher and higher. I'm trying to get home. I'm climbing. My road get a little rocky on my way home. My faith wavers on my way home, but I'm going to make it. If I have to crawl, I'm going to make it. If they have to carry me, I'm going to make it. You have to understand that God is able to do everything but fail. And this is what I like. He says, John says, he says, but these things are written that you may, let me put it in my own vernacular, have something to hang on to. Brother and Sister Garcia, this is where you hang your hat. Yeah. I'm giving you something to hold on to because many miracles he worked. But guess what? This was written for us, that we believe that Jesus is the Christ he said he is. Do you believe that? Don't fool me now. Do you really believe that Jesus is able to keep you and that you believe that he is the Son of God? This is where belief comes in. As I go to my seat, this is where belief comes in. You ever had any chest pains or stomach pains when you went to bed? And you didn't know what tomorrow looked like. You didn't know if you were going to be waking in the morning. The old folks say you were sick as a dog. But somewhere between midnight and daybreak, Jesus touched you. Don't fool me now. He relieved that pain, and the next thing you know, you saw the sun peeping through the blinds. You felt a whole lot better. And the first thing you should have said, Brother Paul, is thank you, Jesus, for another day's journey. Did you tell Jesus thank you this morning? Even though we're climbing, I can't get that out of my head. We're climbing higher. So the thing about it is that while you're climbing, you know, they do have ropes. Mountain climbers have rope. And y'all was singing a song that said, reach up and what? Grab. You got to hold on to God's unchanging hand. You got to hold on to God's unchanging hand. You've got to hold on to God's unchanging hands. Isn't Jesus all right? He helps us